The Blazar Beetle is a weird lens. We can use this lens with horizontal squeeze and horizontal sensor, vertical squeeze, keep going, and vertical sensor. At the same time, there's a helicopter in the shot, is it?
It's right behind your head.
That's why I'm shouting. A helicopter, a boat, a bigger boat, and cars. You just wait until the train rolls by. The Blazar Beetle is a weird lens. We can use this lens with a horizontal squeeze and a horizontal sensor, a vertical squeeze and a horizontal sensor, a vertical squeeze and a vertical sensor, or a horizontal squeeze and a vertical sensor. I'm going into more detail about all of those options, but I couldn't start without pointing out the irony that with all of these options, this video has a 16:9 aspect ratio. And 16:9 is probably the worst overall choice if I commit to any of these orientations, but still the best one to showcase all of them and better use your monitor/TV screen area. At NAB this year, I had a chat at the Panasonic booth about Lumix cameras offering anamorphic D-squeeze for vertical video. Moments later, I wandered off to the Blazar booth and they had a lens sort of made for vertical video. The Beetle, this tiny thing here. So, Lumix people, if you are watching this video, get cracking and doing that D-squeeze thing that we talked about. Heads up, Blazar defends that this lens was made for photographers and not for vertical video. I feel it's a little short-sighted. I can see this appealing more to photographers than other cine lenses on the account of size and weight and how low profile and small your camera setup looks with the lens on it. But photographers care about a lot of other things that the Beetle doesn't meet. My main gripe with this marketing this lens for photographers is that photographers will get pissed at not being able to de-squeeze their images in Lightroom or any raw editing photo software. This is a big deal. Lightroom has been putting off pixel aspect ratio adjustments since forever, and it's pretty inconvenient to edit your image squeezed and then send it to Photoshop for de-squeeze. Anyone's got friends at Adobe? Introduce me, please. Vertical video, on the other hand, is the Wild West, with editing softwares offering countless options to de-squeeze your footage. So I see far more potential there. Not that I love vertical video, but I can't see a future in which it ceases to exist. Now, back to the Beetle. This lens has a lot of unique traits, but the most unique of all is the button near the mount that allows you to rotate the optics by 90 degrees, reorienting your squeeze factor. The Beetles are 1.33 times anamorphic lenses. We have a 32, a 45, and a 65mm focal length, out of which I am using the 45mm here. They cover full frame, come in all mirrorless mounts, and if this doesn't fit the definition of baby scope, I don't know what does. All three lenses put together don't add up to 1 kilogram or 2 pounds, and they all have 55mm front threads for tiny filters. We had to tape an ND on this one. They all have locked aperture at t3.2, and upon some bokeh analysis, we can see that the ovals are more pronounced than they would be straight up from a 1.33 times anamorphic. This is a nod to Blazar's experimentations with oval irises. We'll touch on this topic when I review the Mantis set. The Beetle features a geared focus ring that moves super smoothly, displays engravings in both metric and imperial, and this 45mm focuses down to 1 foot and 6 inches or 46 centimeters. And if I had to bet on the inner workings, I'd say this is a variable diopter. The Beetle lenses are coming out soon and with a cost of about $500 each. Almost an impulse buy. The build quality is pretty decent with an all-metal body and a great feel. Coatings are pretty resistant to veiling glare, giving you a nice and clean white-ish streak flare. Veiling glare is my least favorite type of flaring, so I am happy with this here. You do need a decently sized light source to get flares though. I don't have the full set with me to test for distortion, but this 45mm feels pretty controlled. Now let's talk about all these delivery formats and how to process your anamorphic footage. I'm using a Sony camera, meaning that we don't get open gate. Let's just accept that now and move on. The most coverage I'll get is 16:9 video. I'll start with the math now. So I'll divide 16 by 9 and move forward with a 1.78:1 aspect ratio. Once we add 1.33 times squeeze, the result is approximately 2.37:1. Remember this forever. Anytime you have to confirm your CinemaScope aspect ratio, there's only one correct answer, 2.39:1. Do not conform to 2.35:1. 2.35:1 has been dead since 1970 when the SMPTE killed it. So from 2.37:1, crop a little bit more on the top and the bottom, and you'll get 2.39:1 with very little loss. Cool, this covers one of the 4 possibilities for using this lens, horizontal squeeze with horizontal sensor. Then let's click and turn the Beetle sideways. Now, our 1.78:1 aspect ratio will be divided by 1.33, which comes out to 1.33:1, or pretty much a 4:3 aspect ratio, slightly wider than a square. Old school cool. Lean into that aspect ratio and vintage aesthetics for some good late 80s and 90s throwback. The biggest issue here, your beautiful oval bokeh is now sideways, and your streak flares are vertical. You can use that for the weird vintage aesthetic, but I don't know, I can accept the flares, but the sideways bokeh really puts me off. Whenever I see that, I think, ha, nice try, kid. But I also know that I'm just being prejudiced. I've seen some really good stuff with vertical anamorphics before. I just have to prepare myself in advance to enjoy it. Now we are getting into social media territory as we rotated the whole camera, but didn't touch the Beetle. In fact, mathematically speaking, we got a 3:4 aspect ratio, which is just a little bit taller than it is wide. Fortunately, a lot of the anamorphic character is now back on track, where we get our oval bokeh and our horizontal streak flares, because the lens is in proper orientation towards the sensor. And if you are determined to make content for vertical video or a 9:16 aspect ratio, you can just set your crop marks and get a little bit more room to crop. That is, if you don't want to use the 3:4 aspect ratio. This turns out to be the most useful of the unusual configurations. It gives you an easy to deliver vertical video format, but also a lot of anamorphic qualities. Last, if we click and turn the Beetle for the 4th time, we end up with an aspect ratio of 9:21.4, which is wider or taller than the tallest of phone screens. And it's just kind of quirky. Now your bokeh and your streak flares are also in the wrong orientation to the sensor, meaning horizontal bokeh and vertical streak flares. So I think this is the weirdest of the orientations, the least useful one, at least while our phones are not incredibly long scrolls. Now it's up to you to pick which of these configurations works best for the specific project that you're working on. Let's do a quick recap. These Beetles are tiny, they're fun, and they could be a I take this lens everywhere kind of lens. They are cheap, the image is decent, and the mechanics are good. I don't think they're for photographers, at least not until Lightroom or Camera Raw allows you to de-squeeze your image without going through Photoshop. They are great for spontaneous filmmaking and more fitting to day-to-day recording than to structured cinema-style productions. The Beetles aren't here to replace anything, they're an addition to the array of options that we have, and I am happy to see that we're not stuck making the same lenses over and over. What do you think? All right guys, I'm Chito Fahadens, and I'll see you next time.